Saquon Barkley breaks a 40-year-old rushing record against the Giants the final week of the season.
And look, talking about Graz, first guessing here, when you have a high-character, productive player in your building and he's roughly 6% of your cap, he never, ever, ever leaves. And boy, it would be ironic if that happened.
You know, the thing with the Giants, and there has been, what we have watched as they have completely devolved/dissolved from where they were, is you see the significance of a locker room and understanding the pulse of it. And you've talked to me a little bit about that sometimes as a general manager, sometimes you might miss on something because even though things might make football sense or financial sense, they actually diminish or create a problem that you don't see coming. And that's what, by choosing Daniel Jones over Barkley in the first place, B, then when Barkley did everything you could ask him to do, good soldiered it to the end, they still let him walk away last year. And then C, the minute that Daniel Jones no longer suited their purposes, they couldn't have gotten rid of him fast enough and punted on the rest of their season. The way they have mishandled the emotional piece of this in their locker room has been, candidly, even for an outsider, stunning to watch.
Well, sometimes it's not just a position, right? You have to value the person and the player. And sometimes when that person, is a force multiplier, like Tannenbaum always talks about, he's a guy that does everything right. You're sending a signal to your locker room that it doesn't matter if you do all the right things, if you don't hold out for training camp, if you come in and you're not a distraction and you play at a high level, that it doesn't matter, right? So I think they diminished the value of what Saquon Barkley meant to the team as not just a position that's a position that we devalue, but as a player and what he does in that locker room.
And Greedy, Graz mentioned this earlier as well, but an objective indice this time of year to see if teams are still competing, like the Saints, totally competing. You look at the Giants, look at the number of guys that are practicing, look at the number of guys going on IR. They have absolutely tapped out. There is no buy-in. And to Bart's point, I think part of that, Greeny, is a lot of those players are saying, if you don't pay that guy, what are you going to do about me when my contract's up?
Yeah. So a weird situation where if a guy breaks the all-time rushing record, it's the opposing team that's happy for him. like a lot of those players will be psyched for him.
Not the coach, the general manager, or the owner, though. That's for darn sure. So let's get back to the question that we were originally meaning to ask here. Do you believe that the Giants will and should, it's a Freudian slip, that the Eagles should and will prioritize getting Saquon Barkley the rushing record?
When you say prioritize, right? I think it matters. I think it's a big deal to him and to them, and that it should be, right? I mean, this is, again, you talk about the locker room. Like, how cool would it be for the offensive line? That's an offensive line accomplishment, too, right? Yeah. They want that. I'm 100% sure the Eagles' offensive line wants Saquon Barkley to break this record. So, yes, I think it's a fun thing to rally around, and it's something they should go for. What did you say earlier? 130 yards a game in his last 3 games?
139 is what he needs to average.
It's a lot. So if he gets 50 this week and that's it, then maybe you recalibrate and say, well, that's not really within range. But if he's got a shot going into week 18 and he needs 75 yards to get there, yeah, man, let him do it.
I guess the point I'm making is that as you work towards the end of a season, and this is unquestionably a Super Bowl team, it might be the best team in the NFL, do you have concern of putting maybe giving him a little less workload, especially after...
And I'm telling you, if Saquon Barkley was sitting right here, Greeny, he would say, ring first, record second.
He did say that.
The question was, do you want to go for your own personal single game high,
right,
not the all-time record? You have a chance every week to beat your own personal single game high. This is once in a lifetime.
And he did say it. I mean, he was asked the question, and he did say this week, I'm not going to be upset if I don't get the record. I want to win the Super Bowl. And A, you would always expect him to say that, and B, no one would expect him to put the record ahead of the ring. But they don't have to be binary. It doesn't have to be one or the other.
I mean, if it's close in sight, then you do it. But the reality is Saquon is sitting at 285 carries right now. So you worry about him breaking down in the postseason. You talk about he's been averaging 30 touches or 30 carries a game. You add that up, he's getting close to that DeMarco Murray type of numbers where the next season can be diminished a little bit. So you want to make sure you preserve him for the length of the contract, not just for the first year.
And he doesn't have the cleanest history there either, health-wise. So, yeah, I think it's a tough tightrope to walk. But if they have a chance in Week 18, I think they're going to let him them have.
For the record, let's put the picks up on the screen. I think this is an interesting game. If you go back to the first time these two teams played each other, the final score was not fully indicative.
20 points in the fourth quarter.
Of how close this game was, right? And so, Mike Tannenbaum, you're another one who thinks Washington plays them tough this week.
They have Marshawn Lattimore this game. They didn't in the other one.
All right, so as you can see, we are split down the middle. But let's go back to Saquon as we go back to Joe Fortenbaugh here, our betting expert who has been giving us picks all morning long. What is your best player prop on Eagles Commander?
So let's lean into the narrative you guys were discussing. 19.5 rushing attempts will go over. Now, we can talk all about whether or not they should rest him for the playoffs, just like we can talk last week about A.J. Brown and whether or not they should get him the ball to feel better. Those are narratives. It all comes down to the matchup, and the matchup is favorable for Barkley here. Let's start with this. We're going to get back to the roots in this game. Pre-bye, when the Eagles were struggling, 18 carries per game for Barkley. The offensive line goes into a meeting with Sirianni. They say, let's run the ball more. Boom, you see the result, and it's resulting in wins. Now back to the narrative versus the matchup. Washington ranks 27th in the NFL in defensive rush success rate. Why would you want to throw against them? Just like last week in the Pittsburgh game, why would you want to run against them when you can throw against that man coverage? Run the ball in this matchup. Barkley goes over 19.5 carries.
So over 19.5 carries, and then it'll be interesting to see how many yards that adds up to because, again, over 139 puts him on pace to break the record in the final week of the season. Outstanding. Joe, coming up, everything you need to know. Asiano, I'm starting with you. What if the New York Jets decide to bring Aaron Rodgers back as their quarterback next year?
Then they're even dumber than we thought. Like like let someone else make the mistake you just made. He's going to be 41. What's the case for this? I don't understand it. You've lived it for 2 years. It's been a complete catastrophe. Cut the cord, move on, do something else.
The case for it would be twofold, Mike T. One, and I'm not suggesting that I'm endorsing it, but the case for it would be one, the last few weeks he's actually played better. Since he got healthy and they've gotten their offensive line a little better, he has actually played fairly well. And two, and maybe more to the point, if not him, then who? Who exactly is your option?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Grady. Those are great points. And just to add to it, there's so many teams that will be looking for a quarterback when you think about the Giants and the Raiders. And now you can add teams like Tennessee, disappointed with Levis, New Orleans, disappointed with Derek Carr. So when you think about Aaron Rodgers, not perfect, older, things like that, but from a supply and demand standpoint, there's going to be a ton of teams. The demand for quarterbacks is more than we realize.
Yeah, let that grenade go off in someone else's building this time. Yes.
We'll see what happens. Bart, I'll come to you on the next one. What if Michael Penix leads the Falcons to the playoffs this year?
Well, this is a team that's looking for a new quarterback. They just fortunate enough that they drafted him, and everybody was skeptical about the draft pick. But with Kirk Cousins kind of not, being able to play at a high level right now, Penix coming in, one of the best throwers of the ball. If he's able to get them to the playoffs, and it's the smartest pick ever, right? Because what you need is insurance. Because when they lost Matt Ryan, they didn't have a backup plan. This was insurance, and now they're cashing in their insurance policy.
Pretty expensive insurance, Graziano.
Yeah, but he can be your quarterback for the next 15 years.
But they would have spent if Kirk Cousins never plays for them again. They will have paid him
very likely
$90 million to play 14 games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Again, like it's not. We talked. This is not second guessing. We talked about this when they made the pick. You cannot get maximum value out of the Cousins contract and the Penix rookie contract. Impossible. So yeah, Penix leads them to the playoffs. He's their quarterback in the future. Cool pick. Big mistake. Kirk Cousins goes down as an all-time bad signing.
Yeah. There's no way both of them can work, and that's why neither of them made sense when.
Eagles Nest News. Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl dreams are within reach. Hello Eagles fans, and welcome back to Eagles Nest News. With just 3 games left in the regular season, it's time to get excited because the Philadelphia Eagles are on a historic run, and their path to the Super Bowl is looking clearer than ever. After an incredible 10-game win streak since their Week 5 bye, the Eagles have firmly established themselves as one of the NFL's most dominant teams. With a 12-2 record, they're on the cusp of finishing one of the most impressive seasons in franchise history, and if history is any indicator, the big game could very well be in their future. The Eagles' perfect recipe for success. There's a certain magic in the air surrounding this team, and it feels like déjà vu. The Eagles have reached the 12-2 mark for the 4th time in franchise history. What's more impressive is that in the previous 3 instances, they found themselves playing in the Super Bowl. This time, the Eagles are built to win it all, and with 3 regular season games left, they are perfectly positioned for another deep playoff run. This Eagles team is not just strong in one area, they're an all-around powerhouse. Whether it's their explosive offense, suffocating defense, or elite leadership, the stars are aligning for Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts, the heart of the Eagles' success. First, let's talk about Jalen Hurts, who has truly emerged as one of the league's premier quarterbacks. His 37-9 record as a starter speaks volumes. Hurts has proven time and again that he knows how to win, and his leadership is undeniable. He's not just a dual-threat quarterback, he's a game-changer. With his ability to move the chains with his legs and fire pinpoint passes, Hurts has made the Eagles' offense one of the most dangerous in the NFL. Last week against the Pittsburgh Steelers, Hurts threw for 290 yards and showcased his deep connection with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, helping the Eagles secure yet another win. What makes Hurts special is his mentality. He has the heart of a champion, pushing himself and his teammates to be better each and every game. Whether it's on the ground or in the air, Hurts guarantees that this Eagles offense will put points on the board. An arsenal of weapons at Hurts' disposal. Speaking of weapons, let's not forget about the talent surrounding Hurts. Saquon Barkley is having a season for the ages, currently leading the NFL with 1,688 rushing yards. He's just 417 yards away from breaking the single-season rushing record, and if his performance continues, there's no reason why he won't claim that title. Then there's the receiving duo of A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. A.J. Brown continues to be a nightmare for opposing defenses, ranking in the top 10 league-wide for receiving yards despite only having 56 receptions. He's always open, always making plays, and his chemistry with Hurts is unmatched. Devonta Smith, on the other hand, is having a breakout season, with his performance last week against the Steelers arguably being the best of his career. With 109 yards and a touchdown, Smith is showing why he's one of the most agile and dangerous wide receivers in the game today. A championship defense. But it's not just the offense that's lighting up the scoreboard. The Eagles' defense is playing at an elite level this season. Ranked number 1 in the league for both yards allowed and points allowed per game, this defense has been nothing short of dominant. They've given up fewer than 14 points per game over their 10-game win streak, making them the toughest defense to break down in the NFL. The defensive line, led by players like Quinyon Mitchell, Jalen Carter, and Jordan Davis, has been relentless. Mitchell, who's now a frontrunner for the NFL's Rookie Defensive Player of the Year, has been particularly impressive, holding opponents to an average of just 26 yards per contest since the team's bye week. With a mix of veteran leadership and hungry rookies, the Eagles' defense has been a key part of their success this season. Nick Sirianni, the mastermind behind the success. And then, of course, there's Nick Sirianni. The Eagles' head coach has proven to be one of the best in the business. With a career record of 46-19, Sirianni has become the 5th winningest coach in NFL history. In just 5 seasons, he's led the Eagles to the playoffs every year, with the exception of his first. Sirianni's leadership style is grounded in growth, accountability, and trust, and it's paying off in a big way. His coaching staff, led by Kellen Moore, Jeff Stoutland, and Vic Fangio, has assembled a team that is nearly flawless. After a rough start to the season, including a loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Eagles have rebounded and played their best football since. Sirianni has them primed and ready for the postseason. The final stretch, Super Bowl in sight. With 3 games left, all winnable, the Eagles are in the driver's seat for the number 1 seed in the NFC. But let's be honest, it's not about that top seed, it's about the Super Bowl. And given the way this team is built, with Hurts at the helm, Barkley in the backfield, and an elite defense, the Eagles are more than capable of going all the way. This team is for real, and the Super Bowl is within reach. The Eagles are not just contenders, they are favorites to win it all. The Eagles are ready for glory. With everything falling into place, the Philadelphia Eagles are primed for another Super Bowl run. The offense is explosive, the defense is dominant, and the leadership is second to none. This is a team built for greatness, and the road to the Super Bowl runs through Philadelphia. What do you think, Eagles fans? Can this team make it all the way to the big game? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Eagles Nest News for all the latest updates on your favorite team. Fly, Eagles, fly.